Oh, well, let's go ahead and get started. If you want, can you just tell us about you and your mission at the Accidental Creative? Just a little bit about the background and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. So I like to sort of formally, we help creative individuals and teams generate better ideas, which means building practices and systems to help them be more effective every day. Informally, I like to say that we're an arms dealer for the creative revolution. What that means is that we're equipping people with the mindset, the tools, and the relationships they need to be able to thrive as creative professionals. And those are really the three kind of key areas where I find that creative professionals tend to fall down. So that's really where I and we have focused on delivering value in the marketplace.
Awesome. And how did you become familiar with the 3% conference and Kat Gordon?
I believe Kat reached out to me last year. She had, I think, been kind of hovering around the accidental creative community. I think been a podcast listener possibly for a while, and she reached out to me by email, and I'm super impressed with what's going on there, and very excited to see what she's doing and what you all are doing. I think it's a tremendous need in the marketplace. I'm very excited for it.
Neat. Yes, it is. That's how I joined up with her too. It's just through her speaking around and mutual friends and whatnot. Can you give us the pitch for your new book, Die Empty?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think many people, especially people who are creatively inclined, and by the way, when I use the word creative, I mean anyone who's turning their thoughts into value. So we like to draw these nice, neat lines between creatives and non-creatives, especially when it helps us in the marketplace to figure out which team we're on. Right.
Right.
But it's not, the lines are not that nice and neat, not as nice and neat as we like to make them. The reality is that anyone who turns their thoughts into value is a creative every day. And what I've discovered is that because we're now entering into a marketplace where we pretty much have to figure it out every day. Most of us have figure it out jobs where we have to figure out the kind of value that we're going to contribute to the work that's in front of us. It's created a bit of an angst in creative professionals, this sense that maybe I'm not really getting my best work out of me. Maybe there's something more than I'm capable of. And my first book, The Accidental Creative, was primarily about building practices and systems to help you have great ideas when you need them. But as I would go out and speak at conferences or work at companies, people would come up to me consistently, and the refrain was something like, listen, I have lots of industry recognition for my work. I'm actually doing pretty well as far as meeting my expectations, but I just have this sense deep down that I'm not getting my best work out of me, that there's something more that I have to contribute. And I kept hearing this over and over and over again. And so I thought, okay, the next logical book for me to write would be something in innovation, collaboration, leadership, that kind of space, because that's kind of been my lane for a while. But I decided, you know what, I need to take my own medicine and write a book that is the message that's burning in my bones, which is, listen, far too many people abdicate their contribution. Far too many people take their best work to their grave with them. They carry it with them to their grave because they think that they have tomorrow to do today's work. They think that they'll always have another opportunity to engage with meaning and purpose and to bring their full selves to what they do every day. And by the way, when I say work, I don't just mean your job. I mean any place you add value. So that's relationships, it's your family, it's how you spend your money. Any place that you add value is work. And all of those little choices and actions that you make are over time building a body of work. And that body of work at the end of your life will stand as a testament to what you really cared about. No matter what you say, no matter what kinds of values you espouse to have, your body of work will actually stand as a testament to what you care about. It's how you engage your work as well as what you choose to spend your focus, your assets, your time, your energy doing. So that's what this book is about. It's about helping people really figure out, how do I spend my focus, my assets, my time, and my energy in the places that matter? And how do I keep myself from going off course and ending up in a place of mediocrity and stagnancy like so many people do? And if we can figure out how to do that, Mindi, then we can hopefully in the far distant future go to our grave without any regrets about where we spent those things. And ultimately we can die empty of regret but full of satisfaction for a life well lived.
Oh, I like that. I like the end, the die empty, but not full of regret. Awesome. And then as I was reading the book, the first chapter, because I saw that you could download that one for free when you sign up, and one question resonated with me, and it was the how do you set in motion a course of action that will allow you to unleash your best, most valuable work while you still can? And what sparked this question for you? And maybe you want to elaborate on that question a bit more.
Yeah, I think the real challenge I think that we have to overcome as creative professionals is this misconception that brilliant work is the result of a one-time resolve and a lot of focused energy spent all at once. The reality is that a brilliant body of work is built over the course of time with consistent effort, persistent effort, learning, redirection, course correction, over the course of time, and diligence. There are two factors that I believe are most important. They're urgency and diligence. We have to be urgent in how we approach our work and recognize that today is an opportunity, and once it's gone, it's gone. And then we have to be diligent, meaning we have to approach our work purposefully. We have to approach our work as well as we can, pouring ourselves into what we do. That sounds easier than it is, right? It's not easy because there are a lot of forces that come against us. So when I say how do you set in motion a course of action that will lead to you unleashing your best work now and over the course of time, the way that you do that is by instilling into your life a set of practices that help you regularly scan for any areas where you're getting off track and then realign your life, redirect your life around the activities that matter most. And again, making sure that you're spending your focus, assets, time, and energy in the right place. I always tell people your fate determines your fate, right? Those are your four finite resources: focus, assets, time, energy. So where you put those four things ultimately determines your fate or where you land, the body of work that you build.
Got it. Got it. And then how could we as creatives, when we are going through that frustrating part of our work, trying to make a contribution we believe in and also trying to meet the expectations of like our client or our manager, how do we balance that or manage that area?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we fall prey to is this thing I talked about in the Accidental Creative, which is the tension between process and product. We tend to confuse our work with the final deliverable, that the final 1% of what we do, that deliverable that we hand over to the client that gets judged, is what we consider synonymous with our work. And yeah, that's absolutely the result of the process that we've engaged in. But most of what we do as creatives is process. And we can deliver a brilliant product, but have a miserable process, and we're going to live a life that is abject misery because that's where we spend most of our time. So if we don't get the how right and we don't have a clear why for what we're doing, it doesn't matter how great the work is in the end. We're not going to build a body of work we can point to with pride. So I think that it's important for us to recognize, and I deal with this in Die Empty significantly because one of the forces that comes against us is what I call delusion, which is this notion that there's a narrative that we're living in that's causing us to abdicate contribution because we're living according to a false narrative in the workplace. And that false narrative can be delivered by our peers, it can be delivered by our manager, our clients, but it's this false narrative that we subject ourselves to and we live out. And we're not stopping to ask the question, how do I bring value? Instead, we're just living up to whatever narrative is put in front of us. And so we end up many years down the road asking the question, who am I? How did I get here? And how do I go back to where I was? And really, that's what I want to help people avoid, Mindi. And I know some of this probably sounds like lollipops and rainbows, right?
Right.
It's not. It's absolutely not. What I'm trying to avoid for people who are early in their career, I'm trying to help them avoid the trap that I see so many people who are maybe in the mid-level of their career, maybe in, let's say, their late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, who are asking questions about why did I end up where I am? And this doesn't look anything like what I really wanted to do, and yet here I am because of a series of small compromises over time. I'm trying to help people early in their career avoid that scenario. And people who are in the mid-level of their career where maybe they're asking those questions, I'm helping them establish a new vector and realize, listen, you are still in the early days of your potential contribution. And not only that, but you're better equipped than ever to be able to make a contribution because you have all this experience behind you. So I'm trying to help both of those groups in a sense because nobody wins. You don't win, Mindi. I don't win when somebody abdicates their contribution, when they refuse to engage with everything they have.
That is so true. And I think following up to that, I know many of our audience and people in the 3%, they work creatively within like a corporate or agency setting. And if you could give like 3 pieces of advice to them, what would those be?
Number one, first bit of advice is be purposeful about your creative process, meaning whatever it takes for you to establish practices in your life that prepare you for those moments when you need an idea, do those things and do them consistently. Don't use and abuse your creative process, because eventually it's not going to be there for you. You can come out of the gate and you can kind of shoot from the hip for a while, but if you don't have some kind of rhythm in your life of focus, like defining your work, building relationships that stimulate you creatively, managing your energy so you're not just on all the time, but you're doing some things to disconnect and refresh yourself as well. And you're also good at pruning and saying no to things that aren't the core central things. Stimuli, what kinds of things are you putting in your head, right? Hours, where are you putting your hours, and are you thinking effectiveness, not just efficiency? So the number one tip is be purposeful about how you structure your life. Don't expect creativity to happen in the cracks and crevices of your life. Be purposeful. If you want to contribute over time, you have to do that. The number two thing is it's very important that we define success and that we define failure. And those are highly individual things. So it's impossible to hit a target that you haven't defined. If you blindfold me and send me out in the field and give me a bow and arrow and say, okay, shoot at the target, I might hit it every so often. That's akin to how many people approach their career. They're just letting people lead them out into a field, give them a bow and arrow, blindfold them and say, okay, there's a target out here somewhere, hit it, right? And it's never that overt, but you have to define success for you. What does that look like for you? What do you really want out of life? And look at people around you and ask people you respect, if you were me, how would you define success? Not because they should be able to define success for you, but because it's important to have mirrors in our life to help us see reality. We can become deluded into a false notion of who we are and what we offer. So sometimes we need other people to tell us that as well. So define success. Also define failure. How will you know when it's time to close up shop and try something different? Some people allow their pride to drag them down. They'd rather live with the illusion of invulnerability than admit they made a mistake, right? So how do you define failure in your life, in your career, in your work? So it's important to understand those parameters. What will that look like? And then once you admit failure, you hit that point, you can redirect and focus somewhere else. But I think it's important to know the playing field. You have to have those boundaries. The third thing is, make sure that you understand and that you remind yourself daily, today, I am building my body of work. That body of work is a delta. It's a change that will exist because you sucked air on this earth, right? It's the contribution that you make, a combination of your passions, your skills, your experiences. So recognize that every day you are contributing to that body of work. And over time, and again, it's not just your job, it's any place you add value in your life. It's how you treat people. It's all of those things. How you treat the barista at Starbucks, right? It's all of those things are part of the body of work that you're building. And at the end of your life, you're going to point to that body of work and it will stand as a testament to what you really valued, what you really believed. So recognize that every day is an opportunity to contribute to that. And I would advise you, this is something that I do. It's on my computer monitor every night. I ask myself, can I lay my head down tonight satisfied with the work I did today? Right? Because I think if you can answer that question in the affirmative more times than not, and it's not about working yourself to death. And we've taught, part of the body of work you're building is how you develop yourself, right? And how you develop your capacities, your skills, your ability to engage your work. So it's not just working yourself to death and am I completely exhausting myself every day? No, that's not what it is. But it's making sure that you're building a body of work you can be proud of. You're developing your skills, your mindset, and you're also treating others the way that they should be treated, and the how that you approach your work. You're bringing yourself, you're adding the value you're being paid to add. If you can lay your head down every night satisfied with those things more often than not, then you're going to build a body of work that you can be proud of.
And I think that's like the message that runs through all of your work as well. It's just building that body of work that you are going to be proud of and that as a creative, you feel very satisfied and happy with. And wrapping up the interview here, is there any other information you'd like to share about your upcoming book?
Yeah, I would say this, and again, anybody who's familiar with what I've been doing at Accidental Creative, this is not going to be a surprise to you, but right. This is the message that burns in my bones. So, I told my publicist, listen, if I have to throw the mic down and walk off stage after this book, because I never get to write another one, I will be super proud that this is the last thing I ever wrote, because I really believe this is the message that I need to hear. It's the message that I needed to hear 10 years ago, and I continue to need to hear now. And I'm super excited to finally be able to get it out in the world and get it into people's hands. Don't take your best work to your grave with you, friends. We need you. We need you to contribute. It's not lollipops and rainbows. If you don't contribute, the rest of us miss out. So make a contribution, be purposeful about your body of work, and lay your head down tonight satisfied with the work that you did today.
Awesome. And where's the best place for our 3%ers to connect with you and get your new book?
The best place is probably toddhenry.com. That you can get to all of my other things from there. So toddhenry.com. If you want more about the book, you can go to dieempty.com. It's also available September 26th, 2013, everywhere books are sold.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we really enjoyed the interview. And thanks for all your advice and words of wisdom.
Great. Thank you, Mindi.
All right. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye.